Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, the world's greatest horror movie podcast. On this episode, my weird dad and his friends will be talking about...
They were resting in peace until they were rudely interrupted.
What do you want to do, Scud? Sit on the gravestone?
I just want to party.
This place is a mess.
Now look who's awake.
They're on the way.
War break! They're back from the grave and ready to party.
I think things are getting out of hand.
The Return of the Living Dead, rated R. Starts Friday, August 16th at a theater near you.
These questions, this comes up on Twitter all the time. What was your first blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, man, I can't remember my first anything. but what's your earliest horror memory?
I feel like the earliest was... that I can remember. I remember my mother renting Nightmare on Elm Street. She was on the couch, and I was hiding behind her, like behind her legs. Yeah. I remember peeking out and being like, seeing especially that scene where Nancy picks up the phone and his tongue comes out, and that freaked me out.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Because I'm a little kid. Look, I guess maybe having your child she was a very liberal parent, so it's like, which is something I love about her. I'm still very close to my mom. But yeah, that definitely made an imprint, because from the earliest age, I always had like a fascination with horror and monsters, and even when it scared me, and it usually did, because I'm a little person, I'd always go back to it, especially like going to the video rental store and just looking at the horror section, just looking at all the cover art. Some of it, it always like gave me that kind of adrenaline. Like that was my Disney World, was the horror section.
And I can imagine seeing that one in particular at a young age being pretty disturbing, just because of the surreal imagery. And
it was intense, but so cool. Like, and that one is one that still holds up too, because there are some things that make an impact on you as a child, and you return to it as an adult, and you're kind of like, wow, I don't really see the impact anymore. Like, for example, the cover art. This is so stupid, but the video cover art for the slasher movie Happy Birthday to Me.
Mm-hmm.
Freaked me out as a child. It scared me, and it's literally a dude with his mouth open, like he's screaming, and a shish kebab coming towards it with food on it.
Before they get to celebrate, 6 of them will die in the most bizarre ways you'll ever see.
It's absurd. It's only... It looks like something from Saturday the 14th. as a little girl, that, for whatever reason, scared the dickens out of me. Nightmare on Elm Street, though, I can, I've watched, obviously, since, subsequently as an adult, and it doesn't scare me. Like, horror movies are kind of usually almost like a weird comfort thing for me. Just the imagery, like you said, so the surrealness. It's a really beautifully made movie.
You mentioned your mom. Was there someone in your life who fueled your appreciation of horror?
Well, my mom. She was, and still is. She's always loved horror movies. She's always loved cinema in general. Even though my taste in horror over the years, she is referred to as, quote unquote, "You're into that weird shit."
Yeah.
That's a total quote. She has described my tastes. And she's not wrong. Because I remember in college, she's like, "I want to see something really scary." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I lent her Full Choose to Beyond, but I told her, don't watch it without me, because she's severely arachnophobic. If you are afraid of spiders, that is not a movie. There's a scene. Anybody who's seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And she watched it without me. She was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I'm like, "Dude, I told you." Like, wait for me. And then Maniac. Maniac was the deal breaker. I don't know what I was thinking looking back on it, but I love Maniac.
I can't even imagine suggesting that to my mom.
For Christmas, she gifted us a year subscription to Shudder. Like, it's still very much, in the family. And of course, she was always reading, and still does. Vast reader, and especially horror. To this day, she's ride or die with Stephen King. So, which I haven't read a whole lot of King personally, but I feel very, very blessed to have a parent who not only was into horror and is into horror, but also encouraged a great love of reading. I mean, that's probably one of the main reasons I became a writer.
I can get along with that, and I love all the movies, even the bad ones.
Oh my god, Silver Bullet is legit one of my favorite movies ever. I love that movie. I think it's a near perfect movie. Like, the only real flaw, it's far from a deal breaker. Like, the werewolf design is a little jankety. It's a little, but everything else in that movie, pitch perfect. I mean, I usually am not even a big fan of kids as protagonists in horror movies, but it works in Silver Bullet. Like, Corey Haim was so good. That's probably one of his best roles. Of course, we all love The Lost Boys, but, The Lost Boys, your main focus is more on Kiefer Sutherland and Jason Patrick. Not so much Corey Haim. Like, the younger kids are kind of more in the background in some ways. In Silver Bullet, he's the main dude, but it's so good. And my God, Everett McGill should be in everything.
And Gary Busey.
Oh my God, who would not want a drunk uncle like Gary Busey? That's probably a sentence I shouldn't say. He's so lovable. I wish people so many people now just think of him as just this crazed person, this eccentric human, which he is, and that's part of his beauty. People tend to forget Gary Busey was a legit great actor. Silver Bullet's a perfect example of that.
So how did your appreciation of horror and cult films evolve into your critical work?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. It's funny because, of course, I was sort of a born researcher. Like, I like to find, if I get really interested in something, I kind of want to delve into little nooks and crannies. And I was like that from almost day one. I remember some of the earliest books I would look through as a child were film books from the library, and my mom had a few, and I was just captivated. The world of cinema captivated, especially anything that was different, that just spoke to me. Anything that was sort of outside the little box norms of the mainstream or status quo. Something in my DNA was and I actually remember my very first film review I ever wrote when I was in, I want to say either early junior high or elementary, was for Cemetery Girls by, I think it's Gorman Bechard, because I saw it on USA Up All Night, and I gave it 3 stars. But as far as doing it as an adult and as a professional, I have to give a lot of credit, because I decided I was going to be a writer professionally around the age of 19. But my first love was prose. I still write fiction, and I would write about film a lot, like on message boards and stuff, but I don't think it really occurred to me to do it. You know, like, that's the thing. A lot of us, most people, we kind of lie to ourselves and be like, oh, I could never do that. And it's such ridiculousness, of course. Like, if anybody can do something, if you want to do it, just do it. That's the trick. You just have to do it. I was encouraged by my friend Keith Crocker, who at the time had a zine called The Exploitation Journal. Me and Keith became friends on a message board. He would see my writing. I was basically writing. I was doing film writing. He was like, why don't you do something for the zine? And I was like, ooh, okay. The first professional piece I ever got out there was for David Schmoller's Crawl Space, which is a film I love very much. I would like to probably do a newer piece on it, because since then, I feel like I'm a much better writer because I've done it. You know, practice makes perfect, and it's not that it's perfect, but it's a lot better. But something that's kind of cool is a few years after that piece was published, David Schmoller read it, and he sent me the nicest email.
Aww.
He was so sweet, and he was very, very, just was like, you understood the movie, which to me, that's always a goal as a film writer. Like, I never call myself a critic. To me, the term critic just sounds like kind of a joyless thing, you know? It's just people like, and I mean, I'm objective. I mean, you have to be, objectivity is absolutely essential for any cultural writing, but you should also, somebody worked hard. Making a movie is hard. Even the shittiest movie in the world, you have to have effort, you know? So it's like I always try to respect the process and really understand the film from the creator's perspective. That's something I really love about cinema. I love doing. And
you mentioned the zine. So what were some of the other iterations of critical work? Publications or even websites or chapters in books?
Yeah, I've been very, like, getting published in anything is one part timing. That's just the reality of it. It's timing and luck, but it's a lot of knuckle work. It's putting the pedal to the metal and getting it out there. I remember getting offended one time when I'd gotten, because at one point I got brought on as a writer at Video Watchdog. A friend of mine was like, oh, aren't you lucky? And I'm like, dude, I've worked my ass off like to get that. And that's what it is. You have to just keep writing and submit and get it out there. That's anybody that's like, how do I become a writer? Well, write and finish it. A lot of people start stuff, they don't finish it. And that's, finishing it is the hardest part in some ways. But then you have to get it out there. One of the things, because I've always been a writer, I don't know why it took me so long to realize this is my career, because, well, I do know, I doubted myself. I doubted my voice as a young person. And it was actually, once again, my mother. I'm so lucky. I have the best mom in the world, because I remember her setting me down. I actually was going to be a filmmaker. That was my main goal as a teenager. And I had applied to Florida State University because they had film school. And I actually made it, like, it's a process, or it was at least at that time. I don't know how it's done now, but where you'd have to, like, fill out, like, this application and you'd have to write an essay. If they like that, then the second part is you'd have to go down there physically and be interviewed. The strength of my essay alone is what got me to the interview process, because I went to a high school that didn't even have a photography department. I had no experience at all because I didn't have access. I come from a poor working class family, so it's not like, oh, here's a camera for Christmas. Like, we didn't have the money. But she read that essay and she's like, this is your gift. She's like, you're a professional quality. Like, this is your career. And I always wrote poetry and stories and little, apparently, reviews of Cemetery Girls. I kind of realized that as much as I still, of course, like, I think a lot of us film writers, we all have daydreams of, how they always say music writers want to really be musicians. There is that element. Even at that age, I realized, like, I wasn't emotionally built for the film industry. It's such a cutthroat industry. It's also one where you have to compromise your vision pretty much by necessity. I would say, like, 99.9% of the time. Compromise is good in relationships sometimes, but not with your art. With writing, sometimes the people that want you to compromise, but you are it. You are the teller, you are the speaker, you are the creator. And so it just clicked. And spoiler alert, I didn't get in. The interview went disastrously.
Oh, no.
And of course, it was all like these middle-aged white guys that were just, who's this weird 17-year-old girl, from Arkansas? And especially because I was telling the movies that moved me, and the two I mentioned for sure was Romero's Martin.
And Cemetery Girls.
No, I didn't mention Cemetery Girls. I'd progressed past Cemetery Girls and Lars von Trier's Breaking the Waves. They were really horrified by me mentioning Martin. And especially because they were like, well, what is it? And I'm like, well, you're seeing a human, this character, even though he's a killer, like, he's a human being. You have empathy with him. And I just, seeing that maturity and complex storytelling, I love that movie. I still love it so much. It's in my top 5. Just moved me, and they were so uncool. They completely were like, oh, well, don't you think that encourages blah blah blah? And what's funny is the girl after me was this totally bubbly, she was real sweet, but this little bubbly blonde, I could hear them giggle with everything she said. I was like, God, these guys suck. At the time I was, you're 17, you internalize like, oh, I wasn't good enough, but I look back on it now and I'm like, what a blessing. Thank God I didn't get into that film school. Especially if that was their attitude towards horror, like, I definitely would have been a square peg. I've been on websites, I've been in books, like there's this Cult Epics, which is a really, really cool label that have released so much great stuff. Like, they released Borovchek's Labette, a lot of Jorg Buttgereit's work, who is one of my favorite directors. It's just so much cool stuff. But they did a limited edition hardcover book, and I was really flattered because Nico B., who runs it, actually had some of my articles that I'd done on his films. He's also a filmmaker. He made Pig with Roz Williams, which is such a fascinating and cool work. Not for the faint of heart, and I definitely wouldn't lend that one to my mother for the record. I learned my lesson with Maniac. Of course, I did the Bizarro Encyclopedia film book with John Skip, among other things. I won't bore you with the details, but I'm just, I'm somebody that I'm always looking forward. Like, I don't typically tend to think too much about what I've done in the past, because to me it's always, what do I need to do for the future?
Well, how did you get involved in podcasting and commentary tracks?
The first film podcast I was ever on was a total bucket list dream situation, because I was, like a lot of us film nerds, was an avid listener of The Projection Booth. And at that time, it was hosted by Mike White and Rob St. Mary. I would always listen to it and just daydream, like, oh man, it'd be so cool. And because at that point, the only podcast I'd ever been on was not a film one. It was my friend Frank Catolo, and Frank's a cool guy. He actually, it's uncredited, but he was one of the screenwriters for Motel Hell. And he was a friend and worked with Wolfman Jack, the legendary DJ, who's in Motel Hell. So,
yeah. And
Frank does a podcast called the Catolo Chronicles, and he had me on. But that was it. And Frank's setup, he talks about a lot of different things. So it wasn't, we did talk about film, but it's not a film podcast necessarily. And it's also done live. So there's no editing. Like, whatever you're saying, that's making it out there, which is, I know, right? It's terrifying. Anybody that's done podcasts, it's like, oh shit, are you serious? My God. Frank is from that era where DJs could be off the cuff. And it's live radio. And so he has that great kind of energy. I'm glad it did it, but the first film one, and I'm trying to remember how I got invited, but Mike, I'd become friends with Mike. I was friends with Mike. I even interviewed him for like my old blog. He had me on the opening of Misty Beethoven episode. That was my very first episode. I was scared, completely shitless. Because
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing film professionally for years, or about film for years, but that was definitely my first, and I guess I did good, because I've been very lucky enough to be on Projection Booth, and every times after that as well, of course, on your amazing podcast. Talking about children shouldn't play with dead things last year was a legit highlight for me for 2021, so.
That whole series ended up being really fun. I'm so glad it came to my mind.
That was so good. As far as commentaries, because the first one I got to be a part of was for Fleshpot on 42nd Street, and that was a joint one with Kat Ellinger and Sam Deegan. I got invited as part of that because I'm tied to the girls, which is an honor because I love them both. They're both brilliant. They will forget more about film than 99.9% people will ever remember. Like, their brains are so amazing. But I feel like I got invited to be a part of that because I've worked with Kat on Hell's Bells, and of course me and Sam are, I'm great friends with both of them, and we both were all at the time writing for Diabolique. And it just kind of took off from there. I haven't done a ton, especially compared to Kat and Sam, who, at this point now, if I tried to buy everything they've contributed to, I'm going to need a bank loan, okay? But that's awesome. When you see people that know their stuff and have the passion for film that they do get those gigs, that's beautiful. That's what you want. You want the right people to get the gigs. I hope I get to do more stuff like that this year. But who knows? Who knows what the future holds? We'll think happy thoughts.
Oh, I just saw one that I think you three are on, and somebody referred to you guys as the Unholy Three.
Oh.
There you go. I saw it either on Twitter or Instagram or both or something.
I think it was Twitter. I think, because the Flesh for Frankenstein, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That still doesn't feel real to me, because I'm a huge Paul Morrissey fan. That movie and Blood for Dracula kind of changed part of my brain as a teenager, like legit, and so it's a trip. Life is an absolute trip.
And I just watched it because it's on Shudder right now, and they have the 3D version on there, and I have 3D glasses, so I watched it in 3D, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh,
I haven't seen it in, oh my gosh, probably 30 years.
Oh my god, yes. To know life, Otto, you must fuck death in the gallbladder. Yeah. Oh god, Udo Kier's so good too. He's another one that should just be in everything. That man is a total gem. I will say Blood for Dracula though, that is one of my favorites. I love both of them, but Blood for Dracula, I mean, if anything, for giving us the line, the blood of these whores is killing me.
I think I prefer that one over Frankenstein as well.
It's so good. I love it that people can go on Shudder and see that. There was a time period where both of those films have gone in and out of print a lot over the years. So there's been time periods where they weren't the easiest things to find. So it's so cool to have that access. The one thing, though, I wish we could have seen more films with Arno Jürgen.
You are so pretty. You are so wonderful. You are such a wonderful female creation.
It's so easy to focus on, of course, Udo, because he's amazing, and he's Udo Kier, and D'Alessandro, who's also great. But Arno Jürgen, to me, like, his performance in both of those films is one of those elements that makes those films just pop.
His face. He does a lot of face work, especially in Flesh for Frankenstein. It's pretty fun.
God, when he like, accidentally disembowels that creature. He's all licking her sutures. Oh my god. That's why those of us that love cult cinema, it's because you're not going to see that. You're going to see things you're not going to see in a regular Hollywood film.
Speaking of not regular Hollywood films, where does the movie that we're discussing today fit into all of this? I asked people to pick something that had some special meaning for them, especially when they were younger. Where does Return of the Living Dead fit into that?
Oh my god. When you love a piece of art so much, it's almost sort of like your Tetsuo the Iron Man, but instead of fusing with metal, you're fusing with that work. Like, you love it so much it becomes like part of you almost. Like, that probably sounds pretentious, but Tetsuo the Iron Man is amazing, by the way. If anybody hasn't seen it, please see it. I got to see Return of the Living Dead at, I think in some ways, your early teens is kind of almost like the best time to discover stuff, because you're growing up, you're still a kid, but you're changing, you're hormonal. There's something about, like, loving things as a teenager that is so intense, that kind of love you get. That's why, like, get, like, teen fandoms, I think, for a lot of stuff, because that just... And I was so lucky to see Return of the Living Dead. I saw it I want to say I was either in 7th or 8th grade. It was, like, the perfect combination of I'm a monster kid, the whole punk rock soundtrack, and just that great punk rock energy that's in the film, because I was also starting to discover punk, which was huge for me and definitely changed me and defined me, especially because, like, I grew up in the 90s, and a lot of, there are bands and stuff that I love from the 90s, but Like, the whole alternative thing, grunge, all that did not connect with me personally. Like, I didn't see myself in that. It just didn't speak to me. Some of the Riot Girl stuff did, though. But discovering punk, that was one of those things where it's like, oh my god. And the soundtrack to this, like, this soundtrack has two bands that absolutely changed my life, and that's the Cramps and the Damned. Plus, it's such a well-made movie. When I first saw Return of the Living Dead, of course, you have to remember I still want to be a filmmaker, too, and just the composition in that film, like the camera angles, was so... just everything, it was a fresh film, you know? It was a fresh take on zombies. I mean, even though at that point, by the time I saw it, it was already, like, at least a decade old, but it was just... it has such a fresh energy to it, and it's funny... it's disturbing. It's such a perfect mix of everything you kind of would love in a movie. That cast, holy shit, like the cast are perfect. I absolutely cherish this movie. It's a movie I can watch, and I've watched it so many times over the years, and it never gets old for me. It never gets dull. It's like I can watch it now and enjoy it like I did when I was 13 or 14.
I'm pretty sure I saw this sometime in high school on video. And it was probably at a party at somebody's house, and I probably wasn't paying all that much attention to the movie itself. I just remember it not really working for me, and I didn't go back to it until sometime within the last 8 or so years. I don't think at the time that I saw it, like, I had an appreciation for Clu Gulager or Don Calfa or James Karen or any of the older actors. Mm-hmm. I probably saw it in my late teens, and I wasn't a punk kid, but I grew up with punk in a way, and I always have this thing like, oh, they're not doing it right. I know that these are actors in these roles, and so that kind of put me off a little bit. When I finally went back to it, I was like, oh, okay, that stuff doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of this movie. It presents a lot of really interesting ideas about horror, comedy, and the zombie subgenre specifically. And I hadn't really thought about that. Some of our zombie lore, we always go back to Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead for reanimated corpses that eat flesh. But at some point in the zeitgeist, it becomes brains. Well, this is the reason for that. This is the movie that started that. This is also the movie that gives the explanation as to why they want brains. And so I really appreciated it on that level. And I don't even think I realized until I watched it a while ago, it was a Dan O'Bannon film. He's one of those characters that constantly pops up in places over the years, especially if you're a horror kid. He's such a fascinating character. I wish I knew more about him, but everything that I've seen about him has been sort of a mixed bag of really negative and really positive. I don't know if you've seen the documentary on the making of the film.
I haven't. And it's weird that I haven't, because I love this movie so much. Maybe there's a subconscious thing where I'm like, oh god, what if I find out something?
It's pretty good. I watched it twice. I actually watched it, I think, before this episode even came to being, and then I watched it yesterday. It's good. I mean, as far as horror documentaries go, they have all the main players there who are still with us. They go from inception to release, interviewing all these people, so it's got a lot of great information in it. It has a bit of that problematic stuff with Dan O'Bannon and just his personality and the way things worked out. But it was pretty fascinating how it all came to be, and it being the split, the Romero-Russo split from Night of the Living Dead to where they were doing their own zombie things. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Day of the Dead came out the same year as this. In the documentary, they mention, this trouble with the title and this legal battle that had been ongoing, and it got sorted out so that they could use Return of the Living Dead as the title for this. It struck me as like, oh yeah, they both touch on the same kind of ideas here as far as their characterization of the zombies. We get fast-moving zombies in this, I think, for the first time. We get zombies that talk and reason and think. And you get a little bit of that in Day of the Dead, too. It's just interesting how they both came to those ideas however many years after the original Night of the Living Dead.
Coincidentally, Day of the Dead is actually my favorite of the Romero, like the original 3. I always still think of those as a trilogy. I know, obviously, it's not at this point. Yeah. But Day of the Dead is such a different film than, obviously, Return of the Living Dead. Like, they're two totally, but they're both great. That's the thing, like, Return of the Living Dead did add, a lot of, like, new approach. And I haven't read the original book. There was the Return of the Living Dead book that John Russo wrote. That was before the film. But I'm led to believe that, like, tonally, like, even his original script is way different. What we're seeing is pretty much Dan O'Bannon's vision, which is amazing. And the cast, oh my god, I'm so glad you mentioned Clu Gulager. I am such a Clu Gulager fangirl.
Kid, I want to tell you something, and I mean this sincerely. No matter what happens, don't name it after me.
If you read up anything about him, he is a total art hero. Like, this guy he's a legend. And I don't mean just because, like, oh, he's this great actor. Like, he's just a total uncompromising personality and just a joy in everything. It doesn't matter what he's in. The 80s were such a fascinating time for him because he was also in that movie From a Whisper to a Scream, that anthology film. There's this weird sort of incest. He plays a character that's kind of weirdly incestuous with his sister, but the sister is played by his real-life wife. If that makes it less creepy. It probably doesn't, now that I'm thinking about it. No, I mean, it's funny with the whole punk thing, because obviously I can see why your teenage self was like, oh, these aren't real punks, especially because Freddie is wearing, and this is something I'm going to notice because I'm a music nerd too, his t-shirt is for the band Visage, which I actually do like Visage, but Visage were a new romantic synth pop band. And that's kind of the other thing, is like the mix of kids, like, quote, big quotation mark. It's kind of also interesting because you have like Suicide, who is oh my god, I love Suicide. I once took a like online personality test years ago to see, remember those things used to be probably like, which character from this? And they had one for Return of the Living Dead, and I was like, okay, I have to take this. I was pegged as Suicide. Think of that what you will. Apparently I am a 6'5" humorless
I'd probably be Chuck, so.
Oh, but Chuck's got the hair, though.
Yeah.
Chuck's got a good coif, so that's not bad.
I do like that there's a mix, and it's not, we've got Chuck, who's a little bit more new wave, and who's the girl, Tina, who doesn't seem punkish at all.
She's a total Valley girl. Like,
which is great. I mean, that it works for me a lot better now. And Scuzz with his real mohawk, I'm glad they did that. Yeah, I can forgive the wigs, or the wig. I can't tell if Jewel Shepard, I forget her character name. I have her.
Casey, yeah. It looks
I'm
like,
not sure.
I've always wondered that too, like, because it looks wiggy in some parts, especially with, like, the Blu-ray, just having the benefit of high definition. I think what they did, they kind of teased her hair and kind of just sprayed it. Kind of like, I'm probably going to be the only human that puts this comparison, but kind of like Ginger Lynn's hair in New Wave Hookers.
Well, and that's the thing that they would do. You would see a lot of that. Oh, just spike it up.
Yeah.
Comb it up and then mousse it and spray it. And I can even forgive the strange wig that they give Linnea Quigley, and because it works with her whole look, and it's a nice mix. And, of course, Miguel Nunez
as Spider.
Yeah.
Oh, I love everybody. He's so great, especially when that whole exchange between him and Trash in the cemetery, where she's like, do you ever fantasize about being killed? And he's just like, yeah, I try not to think about doing it too much. Like,
try not to think about dying too much.
It's so perfect. It's Suicide. Like, speaking of real hair, Mark Venturini, who plays Suicide, he went to a barber and got that weird shaved thing. I mean, the freaking manpower gravitas he brings to that character cracks me up, because I think everybody, especially with hardcore punk, I think everybody's kind of known at least one hardcore punk person that has no chill. Like, no, chill. And he's just like, oh, you're so spooky. Fuck you. Like, he's... And then with Trash, like, Linnea Quigley is one of the greatest comedic actresses of the modern age. I'm 100% serious. Her dry wit as Trash is so perfect. And also, but everything you see her in, she will bring some great humor to it, whether it's Sorority Babes and the Slime Bowl-orama, or of course Night of the Demons. Oh, that's another huge favorite of mine. Like, I love Linnea. Everybody, talks about loving Linnea Quigley, and it's always tied to the nudity, because we've all seen Linnea Quigley naked. But she's so much more than a pair of great boobs, guys. Come on. She's got a great heart.
This and Night of the Demons are probably my two favorite performances from her.
Oh god, that scene in Night of the Demons where she's literally pouting. She's like, I want to go see the boys, or something about the boys, and just her little stomp that she does. Like, she's so good. And that's the thing, this film is so much fun, and the cast is so great. You can kind of overlook the anachronisms of a punker wearing a Visage shirt. Maybe Freddie was just open-minded.
Yeah.
Maybe he was like, I like all kinds of music.
You mentioned the original novel from John Russo, and I wonder if it's like, because his idea, they get into this in the documentary, was that with this happening, with corpses returning from the grave, society would create a religion around this. So his original draft of the script was in that vein, and he describes the opening scene, and I wish I could remember what he said, but it's like a family at a funeral for this little girl, but it's not a funeral, it's like they're waiting for her to come back to life or something. That idea actually kind of fascinates me, and it would have been a completely different movie, but I guess it went through 2 or 3 different revisions when these studios got involved, like Orion and Hemdale, and they would of course have somebody take a stab at the script. I don't know what shape it was in when Dan O'Bannon got it, but he basically made his own screenplay out of the thing. It's interesting because this is the problem I have a lot of times with horror comedy, is the tone. The cast and the crew, nobody understood what the tone of the film was. Clu Gulager plays the movie straight, and I think that was on purpose. I don't think he was interested in being hammy or campy or anything like that. And so they had battles, on set, apparently. And you mentioned, his whole persona earlier, and on that documentary, he is a hoot. Nobody really got, is this funny? Is this scary? Is it this? Is it that? When they finished the film, people were like, I don't know, but I guess in the editing, O'Bannon just made it click, made the right decisions, and everything came into place. And I don't think it's like overtly haha funny. There are comical scenes in it. There's so much downbeat stuff in the film. Just Freddie and Frank basically dying from, I don't know, like, when do they crack open the container? Not even 10 minutes into the movie. And then for the rest of the film, they're in agony. And it ends with a very touching scene when Frank finally decides to cremate himself. So that's the kind of stuff that I really appreciate seeing now.
That's the thing, is that scene is so powerful, and James Karen, just another heavy hitter, always such a great guy to see, and he owns it. He absolutely owns it in this movie as Frank. And that's the thing, because you love these guys. Tom Matthews is such a great, likable guy, especially in this movie, too. And so you like these characters, and you basically are seeing them slowly rot, and then you see Frank basically kill himself. But you think that would be... I mean, there's like these touches of like, well, what would be the reality if this happened? If you knew you were going to become that, would you want to become a zombie and eat brains?
Right.
Maybe not. And just a little touch of him taking off his wedding ring and praying for forgiveness. All the while you have like Rocky Erickson's Burn the Flames playing in the background.
Forgive me.
It's great. And you're 100% right. I mean, what makes this film successful versus, because I can understand anybody not being a fan of the horror comedy subgenre, because it's a mixed bag for sure. Those are you're taking two genres that are really hard to pull off well on their own. Like comedy, I never understood why people don't respect comedy and horror as much as they respect drama. Because to me, like, I think comedy and horror are way harder to pull off than drama. Anybody can make emotional pornography, like Terms of Endearment or whatever. But to make something that either legit kind of creeps you out and gets under your skin, that's really hard. And equally, to make something that tickles people is equally hard. Those are two very complex emotions you're trying to pull out of people. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of dramas I love. I'm not a genre, I'm not trying to be snobby about drama or genres in general. But to pull both of those off, where you have humor that lands and horror that lands, that's almost impossible. Return of the Living Dead is one of the few films that does it, because the stuff that is creepy and kind of off-putting, it completely lands right down to having, in my opinion, I always think the best zombie movies are the ones that have that sense of apocalypse. And not just like the obvious apocalypse, but like tonally, you feel it. You're like, oh shit, this is grim. And it has that. I think that's why this one and, Romero and a lot of the Italian ones, because the Italians, especially, talking about the Beyond earlier, they have that same sense of just doom, utter doom, and I love it. Which is also probably why I love heavy metal and goth music too. So it's like you're laughing, and all of a sudden, he just kills himself, and you're seeing more and more characters kind of either die off. This isn't going to end well. Like the ending, I think, is so effective, especially just that shot of Ernie, played by Don Calfa, kind of holding Tina. It's such just great, effective movie. Can you tell that I love it?
Yeah. I like how there's callbacks to that whole thing with Frank deciding to cremate himself instead of becoming a zombie. This was a suggestion of his to Dan O'Bannon. He didn't want to end up outside in the cold rain with the zombie horde. So he's like, well, what if Frank cremates himself? O'Bannon's like, well, how would he know how to operate it? And he said, look, all I need to do is sit when I'm talking with Freddy and say I could operate that damn thing. And that's exactly what they do. And that nice little insert of that 2-second shot ends up with a nice callback at the end.
Some big favor. I could operate that goddamn thing.
We get callbacks with that wonderful scene with Don Calfa when they first go into his mortuary and he's explaining what he's doing to the corpse that's laying on the table and talks about rigor mortis.
See, rigor mortis starts in the brain, and it spreads down to the internal organs and finally settles in the muscles.
And we get a callback to that when Frank and Freddy are going through the stages of death in front of their eyes. Freddy says, my head started to hurt, and now my stomach really hurts, and it's hard to move. And Ernie's like, that's rigor mortis setting in. It's smart storytelling. That and that underlying grim reality of what's going on are what make me really caught into the movie now.
Well, and plus Ernie, talk about a fascinating character, because it's heavily implied that he might be a Nazi.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever said, but he's, listening to very Teutonic music. At one point he says, I remember the translation, I can't remember the actual German, but basically says a line in German that's alluding to the rain coming down like a drunken soldier. These weird little touches, but they don't go heavy-handed with it, which I really respect. And also, this film is one of the very few horror films that, I guess technically everybody dies at the end, but I love the fact that Spider, usually when you see a minority in a horror film, they're going to be the first ones to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stereotype, but it's a stereotype for reasons. He makes it almost to the end. He makes it to the end. It's just everybody gets blown up, so it's nothing personal. Night of the Demons did the same thing with the character Roger. So I love it when films have a little surprise. And he's also one of the more resilient, probably one of the most resilient of that whole crew. Because, he's able to not get eaten, but he's also applying logic and stuff as opposed to just kind of collapsing. Like even though Casey and Chuck make it to the end, if you're in a situation of peril, you do not want Casey or Chuck on your team, okay? But you do want Spider.
Yeah, I don't think I caught on to that whole Nazi thing until I read about the film. It just went completely over my head. His name, I don't even know if it's spoken out loud, was of some high-ranking Nazi SS official.
Ernie shares his name with Ernst Kaltenbrunner, who was a high-ranking Austrian SS official and a major perpetrator of the Holocaust. Kaltenbrunner was sentenced to death and executed by hanging in October 1946.
I saw that factoid, which, by the way, I know this is going to be a hot take. Sometimes the trivia sections on IMDb is a little woolly. A little wild and woolly, because holy shit, the trivia on this movie, there were repeats of information. And it's stuff like, I guess Jules Shepard, maybe this was in that documentary, which I really need to see, where she was saying that Linnea wouldn't make a good, or Linnea was better for Trash because if Jewel had been Trash, which I guess she originally was offered the role of Trash, it would have made it more X-rated because Linnea, quote-unquote, didn't have a wow body. And that's like, what? Like, are you serious? I'm pretty sure, like, beauty is the eye of the beholder, and both are beautiful women, but come on, I mean, nobody's ever been like, oh no, Linnea Quigley's naked. Said no dude ever. Or woman, for that matter. Like, come on, it's Linnea Quigley. Like,
she's a bit prickly. Well, she's prickly in the documentary, but I guess she was a source of trouble throughout the filming. She complained a lot, and everybody tried to distance themselves from her.
Oh, man,
It's interesting, though, how she got on the film. She was a stripper and worked at a strip club that Dan O'Bannon frequented, so he offered the role to her. It didn't come up that she was originally supposed to play Trash, so that's interesting. She was ticked off that she didn't get to do any nudity.
I will say this, though. Jules Shepard is in another favorite movie of mine called Raw Force, which also involves zombies, now that I'm thinking about it. Have you seen Raw Force?
Mm-mm.
Holy smokes. Okay. It is epic. It is, you've got martial arts, you've got, like, sex workers, you have this one guy that is who frequents the sex workers, who looks like if Leisure Suit Larry and Burt Reynolds had a baby. Like, he's so cool. But Jules Shepard has a small part in it as a topless partygoer. Also, Camille Keaton is in it for, like, 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
This movie's completely bananas. I love it very much. It is ridiculous as balls, but that's why I love it. I highly recommend Raw Force. Vinegar Syndrome put out a really good-looking Blu-ray of it.
Yeah, I know the title. I've just never watched it. I'm going to write it down right now.
Oh my god, you will not regret it. It's so ridiculous. The only thing it's missing is Blackie Dammit. I swear. It needs more. Every movie should have Blackie Dammit in it as well. Jules Shepard, to her credit, I like her energy as Casey. Her being prickly kind of works for the character because Chuck's always flirting with her, and she's just having even when they're like having to rely on each other, and she's crying. She literally says, "I never did like you." Like, so they turned a negative into positive. Yeah, me personally, if you like Heather, we want you to be in this movie, and Clu Gulager's in it, I would be the happiest motherfucker that ever lived. Okay, like, oh. We should all be so lucky.
You did what? You opened it, you stupid moron, you idiot. What's the matter with you, Frank? Haven't I always told you never to even go near those goddamn tanks?
The other nice thing is the explanation for why the zombies want brains. It gives a touch of humanity to them in a way. Also, it's one of the great special effects sequences in the film with that half corpse.
It makes the pain go away.
The zombies are given humanity. That's the parallel I was giving to Day of the Dead and them coming out at the same time, where we have Bub and that being able to show reason in that film. That's a fascinating aspect. Why do you want to eat people? Not people, brains. Well, why do you want to eat brains? Because it's like a drug to them.
That's something that occurred to me more as an adult. Watching it as a teenager, it is kind of like I don't even know if it was intentional, but it is a great analogy for drugs. Self-medication because of pain, and you end up doing things you don't want to do or wouldn't normally do to get that high. Yeah, I do love that special effect. The zombie design is so cool in this movie. Especially because, like, at one point you have that one it looks like they used a little person, but it looks like they have a weird shriveled arm or something. Like, it's completely crazy looking.
That scene is really disturbing. I didn't remember it when I watched it the other day, and he's eating, I think, the paramedic's brains. And then one of the characters runs by and he chases them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a disabled person. It looked to me almost like he didn't have legs, and maybe one arm was disfigured as well. And I was like, oh my god, that is absolutely horrifying.
Oh yeah, it's especially because you don't expect it. It's, you're like, whoa, what is going on?
But then he slips at the very tail end of the shot. They should have cut it about a half a second earlier. He slips in the rain. I was like, oh gosh.
He may be a zombie. Doesn't mean he has to be graceful about it. Yeah. Speaking of the paramedics, that whole gag where you have the zombies using, again, kind of, you're talking about the wherewithal, to be like,
send more cops. Send more paramedics.
But one of the zombies that does that is this character actor, John Durbin. And I have to mention him because he is in Dr. Caligari, which is one of my favorite films, directed by the great Steven Sadian.
Mm-hmm.
I have to mention, like, a Steven Sadian-related thing in almost every podcast I do. So this gave me the perfect opportunity, because John Durbin, he's only in this movie for, like, a minute. But if you see Dr. Caligari, he plays a character called Gus, who gives us the most amazing line reading of the phrase juice dog. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
That's another movie I haven't seen in about 30 years.
I mean, I'm biased, but, like, it's well, I'm not biased. I'm telling the truth. It is truly, everybody should see Dr. Caligari. And also, anything but John Durbin. It's funny in a way, actually, it's kind of depressing that this film, we have fast zombies. And the depressing thing is, I've actually had to hear legit debates between people far, I guess, more serious about their nerddom than myself about the science of fast zombies versus slow zombies. I think you and I, tonight, we can end this debate once and for all. They're not real, guys. So you don't have to apply science to it. It's literally, they're a supernatural creature. It's not real. Just enjoy the movie. It's really good.
It works extremely well in this. I'm kind of one of those, I'm not science-y about it, but I like the slow, dread-inducing zombies. And even in Night of the Living Dead, some of them run, kinda. I don't think there was any hard and fast rule. It's just a little bit creepier when they're ambling along and you have this time to sit there and go, oh, I'm not really sure what's happening. Put yourself in the mind of the character, like, why is that person walking towards me so slowly? And then you come to the slow realization that, oh my god, they're dead and want to eat me. That to me is a little bit more fear-inducing than just someone running at me. That's more like adrenaline, like, oh, I got to get out of this person's way or something. It works really well on this because of that swarming. They're not there, and so the paramedics get to their truck or whatever, or the first time a pair of cops shows up, they're all hidden. And then all of a sudden, it's just a swarm, and there's absolutely nothing you can do, and it works really well in this. Maybe more so than other movies that employ the fast-moving zombie, like the Dawn of the Dead remake, or World War Z, or something like that, where it's just simply overwhelming. There's just so many, and they're so fast. What could you possibly do to escape this?
One thing that makes it work better in this film than I think it does in some of the newer films is also just the sense of composition and just... O'Bannon's really good about letting things build up. Some of the newer horror films or zombie films, like, the editing is so furious and connecting that, to me, it kind of takes me out of it. Because, first of all, it makes me think I'm watching a Mountain Dew commercial with zombies, which is not an ideal way to build up atmosphere or dread, in my opinion. Everybody's different, so it's all good. If that scares somebody, great, it did its job. It's just, for me, it's definitely not part of my aesthetic. The editing and everything's just, it's too fast. And, with horror, I think you have to kind of let it simmer. It's like a stew. It's like a soup. You got to let it simmer and boil a little bit. You just don't turn the burner already up all the way to high, because you'll burn the food. I think some of those newer films are burning the food, basically, where just everything is, like, just so perfectly paced in this movie. There's no parts that drag, but it's also not so fast to where you feel like you've just snorted a whole mountain full of pixie sticks. You know?
A good deal of that comes from having a couple different storylines. Or we start off with Frank and Freddy in the supply store, and then the punks outside. But then once the rain comes down, the group of punks get split off into a couple different groups. And so you have people in the supply house, you have people in the mortuary, you have people in the graveyard, and we can cut back and forth. That helps with that pacing, and we can get to a maybe an exciting part and then switch to the other story. And I was surprised how quickly they released the gas in that drum. I noticed it because that's when the credits start. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're 10 minutes in. For one thing, this happened a lot faster than I recall. And oh my gosh, we haven't even done the credits yet. It's really late for the credits, but it's really early for the action to start. And then you get that great scene of the body inside the container melting away.
God, as you mentioned, like the special effects in this movie are so cool. And to me, it's almost iconic. That skeleton, almost as iconic though as Tarman. We have to talk about Tarman.
Oh yeah. It's funny though because that happens and then we don't see Tarman. Talking about the pacing, is like you mentioned, it's not like he just pops out and attacks Frank and Freddy. We go away from them for a bit. This is the arrival of the punks in the car. We still don't see Tarman for a while, who is one of the most memorable zombies I think ever. I actually have 2 little Tarman figures sitting in front of me right now that I bought a couple years ago.
That's awesome. His whole physicality, like the way he moves, your eyes and brain aren't prepared for you to see any sort of humanoid, even if it's a zombie creature, move the way that Tarman moves. The way his tongue sticks out when he says more brains. It's like, oh, it's so creepy, but it's also like one of the most badass things you'll ever see in a horror movie.
I thought, like some of the cast did, apparently, that it was animatronic. It's hard to wrap your mind around the fact that it is a person in a creature suit. It is one of the best designs. And the guy that made that ended up getting fired from the movie because he failed so miserably on a couple of the other special effects ideas.
But he gave us Tarman. I mean, I think you're allowed to fail a little bit when you give us Tarman.
If you see the documentary, and you should, you'll understand why. The yellow corpse, they cut up into pieces, and his job was to create a headless corpse that could move around the shop like it does in there, and you have to see what he came up with, and you'll kind of understand why. And then one other one that the design of the zombies wasn't up to the liking of the production designer. He has a good sense of humor about it because he's in a good portion of the documentary and talks about the hits and the misses, and so it's pretty interesting.
Speaking of iconic special effects moment, and it's used in the trailer and a lot of the marketing, but where that skeleton rises up with the eyes, and then rises up from like the wet earth of the grave, and then it kicks into 45 Graves party time. And so I love that. It's such a perfect edit. I love skeletons with eyeballs. I don't know what it is. It's like, it doesn't make any sense scientifically, but it's a movie, guys. We don't have to worry about science. Also, I always wondered, like, do you think the Evil Dead 2, whoever came up with that video cover was influenced by Return of the Living Dead? Because they're on Evil Dead 2 on the VHS, there was, like, it's a skeleton with eyes.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And there are no skeletons with eyes in Evil Dead 2.
That is very true. That is one of the other things that they didn't really care for either.
Oh, I love it, though.
The production designer or something was like, what is this? What is this? Skeleton that's been in the grave. They're kind of applying realistic expectations, and I think it works pretty well, because it's creepy.
It's very creepy, and you don't expect it. there's a lot of good logic applied in, because it is a smart movie. But sometimes it's good with horror, like we were talking about earlier with Nightmare on Elm Street, and when you have slightly kind of surreal images, and you're bringing sort of the image of the unknown and the unexpected, which is one of the great beauties of horror in general, is it gives you the landscape to do that. And so seeing a skeleton with eyes pop out, especially to a song by 45 Grave, one of my personal favorite punk bands and sort of proto-death rock bands. It's funny, they actually, like, the version of Party Time in this movie is drastically different lyrically to the original one. They made it more fun for the zombie movie, but like the original song was about, like, I think it was like a true crime case where this little girl had been abused and raped and murdered.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So if you're wanting the zombie version, guys, you might want to make sure which album you're getting it off of. Though the video, there was a music video made for the original version, which is also very, very creepy. But it should be. Like, it's a creepy song. If it's people, at a frat party listening to a song like that, there's something not quite right in the world. And yeah, I mean, not to keep harping on the soundtrack, but man, I think this is one of those films that just, its soundtrack is absolutely just classic. It's one of those films. Like, the way that other people feel about movies like Grease or, say, American Graffiti, like, in their soundtracks, this is that for me. The Return of the Living Dead soundtrack is perfect, and especially because you have like some deeper cut bands that are used. The Jet Blackberries with their song Love Under Will, which is a really great and kind of eerie song, and a very underrated band. Actually, a friend of mine gave me one of their albums a few years ago. He was clearing out his vinyl and he was just like, you seem like you would like this. And I'm like, yeah, I love their song on the soundtrack. And yeah, it's a great album. And you have SSQ, which was a really, really cool, more of a synth band. They weren't punk. A lot of people have heard of Stacey Q, and she had a big song with Two of Hearts.
Oh, okay.
The first thing she ever did was a band called Q that became SSQ. Really cool band. Their song Anonymous is used to great effect in that movie Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Oh. I was looking through, I was like, well, I mean, they've got the right bands in here for this, so that's nice, because sometimes that's the other thing that doesn't really work is the bands are people that you've never heard about. Who's this? I don't know any of this music. And that's the funny thing is that nobody involved in the film really liked punk music. Especially the older cast and the crew were like, I don't even like this. But apparently it works because everybody loved it when it came out.
It's one of those things where it probably shouldn't have worked. It's not like you're watching a movie like, say, Desperate Teenage Love Dolls, where, like, everybody is truly a punk. Though that movie's really good, too. I do love that movie. But yet it all does come together. And the fact that it is kind of a mix, because it's like, I mean, yeah, you've got the Cramps, which are more, I guess some people call psychobilly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Damned are punk, but the Damned, it's kind of like, it's a punk soundtrack in the sense of what original punk was, which original punk rock, before it became kind of a codified thing, was really diverse. And you could have bands like the Ramones right next to a band like Suicide, or Wire, or the Dead Kennedys, or the Bags, and infinitely a lot more diverse, both sonically and as well as like the players. And Return of the Living Dead, the soundtrack, and the fact that you do have kind of a cool mixed group of young protagonists. They're not kids, guys. Yeah. You might say kids. I'm like, no.
I know.
It's kind of reflected with that, and it's cool. And I mean, plus, like, Clu Gulager has punk rock energy. I would say, like, he's totally got that same kind of energy that guys like Antonin Artaud had, or Dali, that energy of just being 100% yourself. Not only do you not fit into something, you are that something, so why would you want to fit into it? You're just completely like a self-owned, self-realized person and artist. I don't know, maybe this is... AKA, we should just call this episode Heather Really Loves Clu Gulager on Wake Up Heavy.
Rabid weasels.
And it goes to the attitude of the film as far as the subtext that lies throughout of distrusting authority. The overarching theme of the movie is the government really fucked up, lost these containers. The solution to that problem is to nuke the place. Every time I watch the movie, when they get to the part early on, when we see that colonel show up to his palatial estate in California with the guards posted out front and fiddling with his computer and telling his wife he has to be on call 24 hours a day. And it's like, well, what the hell does this have to do with the movie? And that doesn't come back, talking about callbacks, that doesn't come back until the last scene of the film, when they finally call that number on the container at the end of the film. I love that shot of the colonel sitting there taking notes on his notepad. And what happened next? And
when did this take place? And when was the tank first breached? What happened next? And what effect did that have? So what did you do then? And what did they do?
I kind of wish we had both sides of that conversation. I don't know if they shot the other side of that conversation. It's goofy with just him talking. The solution is to just fire a nuke at their general direction and take care of it.
This is a film that came out during the Reagan era, where people more and more were growing aware of our country becoming more and more of a military industrial kind of complex. And then on top of that, you have the Cold War. And it's funny because I did a piece last year about nuclear fear in 1980s music videos. Part of what inspired that was, I remember a few years ago, I made a comment about in the last few years, not to get too heavy, people were afraid of the Russians and they were afraid of what if they have bombs. And I'm like, wow, it's like we're in the night. I made a joke to friends. It's like, wow, it's like the 1980s again, right? And she was like, oh, what are you talking about? And then I had somebody else be like, oh, the Cold War didn't exist in the 1980s. And I'm like, are you shitting me?
Yeah, it did.
Like, I know I was a little kid, but I remember. And so I ended up doing, because it's all over, nuclear fear is all over 1980s cinema and culture, like in music videos especially. So you have like this, basically that nuclear fear is in this, basically in the ending, because it's like, well, that's what they're going to do. They'll just bomb us.
Yep.
And obviously that's just going to fuck shit up even more, because spoiler alert, bombs don't solve bombs aren't good problem solvers. And that's kind of makes it a nice sort of kinship with the Romero films, because Romero, in my opinion, his films could be very political, but not in a heavy-handed way, not in an obvious way, in a smart way, in the way that, like, you live in a society where things are, it's political. Things are political. Like, art's going to reflect that, and it should. Horror can absolutely reflect that and kind of delve into it in a way that's really nuanced, which Romero was, I think, one of the masters of. That kind of makes this film a good kinship. That and like you said, having some human traits applied to the zombies and even a little bit of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, nobody's more lovable than Bub. I think we can all agree. Bub is the most lovable zombie ever. It's just such a smart movie, and especially with this genre, because to be honest, as much as I love zombie movies as a monster kid, like as a monster adult, I've been burnt out on that genre for years now.
Yeah, I think we talked about that even on the Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things episode, how it's not my go-to. Like, I still haven't even seen Train to Busan. I just haven't had the pull to go watch it.
No, same. And my husband actually saw it. He was like, oh man, it's really good. You need to see it. I married him. He's got great taste. Might marry me. I'm like, maybe I'll get to it.
I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, that glut. And it's funny because there's other types of movies that have had similar gluts that I don't feel burned out on. I still love vampires and vampire cinema. Granted, I'm saying that, and I realized, one of my go-tos, it's not always the new films. It's usually like, oh my god, I'm going to watch Count Yorga again for the 8th time. But Count Yorga is really good, in my defense, so I stand by it.
There was a movie, it's pretty recent, probably maybe 2014 or 2015, called Contracted. I really enjoyed it because I didn't realize I was watching a zombie movie until the very end of the film. There's actually a part 2 as well, and they're both pretty good. So with the title, you can get the idea that someone contracts an illness. And she goes through this horrible, pretty gruesome series of changes through the film. And then get the idea at the end, oh, okay, I get it. And that's sort of where I am right now with zombie films. Like, I don't want to know it's a zombie film until the end. Kind of happens with Frank and Freddy in this. They're on their way to dying, and the minute they die, because they've been hit with that gas, they're going to turn into zombies. Something I didn't catch, because I was expecting Scuzz, when he gets his, or actually you could say the same thing about Suicide as well, because they get killed by zombies, I always wait for their return in the scenes at the end. Like, where's Scuzz? Where's Suicide? Why aren't they with the rest of them? And the guy that plays Scuzz mentions this in the documentary, and the reasoning is because they weren't infected by the gas. They're out in the rain when it's pouring down. Linnea Quigley's complaining about her skin burning. They're feeling the effects of that, but because they didn't ingest the gas or weren't underground when it happened, they don't reanimate. Oh. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that kind of makes sense.
Oh, wow, I never thought about it like that.
I think you could argue that they were in the basement where the gas was originally released. They were in the rain where it was coming down. I'm not going to nitpick about it, but it's interesting that that's the delineation of who's coming back and who doesn't. It's not just because you die, you're going to reanimate like you would in Night of the Living Dead or some of those other sequels.
We're so used to seeing, because at this point it's very much like a trope. The bite alone will kind of transform you. Like, you get infected if you get bit.
Either that or just when you die, you reanimate. That's how The Walking Dead is, which I stopped watching years ago. Once you're dead, you're going to come back. It's not because you were bitten, although that may give you a bad infection that will eventually kill you. It's really the act of dying itself that brings you back. You're going to come back no matter how you die. It's interesting, those delineations in zombie films and within this film itself as to who or who isn't going to come back.
See, that's why I love doing like shows like this, is that here's a film that I've seen countless times over the years, and you just like pointed out something I never really thought about. That's so neat. Like, I always thought it was curious, because I think especially because at this point, especially as you watch more zombie films, you'd almost expect to see them pop back up, because that's usually how this goes.
When my wife died, I didn't put a bullet in her head, so now she's back to get me. Or even in Night of the Living Dead, when the brother comes back to get Barbara, you expect it. And that's why I was like, well, why isn't Scuzz coming back? I was waiting for him, since he's in the mortuary with them. I was waiting for him to pop up, because I haven't watched this movie a ton, so I don't remember all the beats. He never did, and I was like, well, that seemed like a missed opportunity. It was explained in the documentary, so...
Can we just talk about what a great nickname that is? Because, like...
I'm so bad at names anyway in films. Whatever that condition is called. Like, I'll meet a person, and they'll tell me their name, and like 5 minutes later, I'm like, I don't know, I have no idea what your name is.
Same. I'm great with faces. Like, I'll remember a face like that. I have to really engage with somebody over time.
Yes.
For their name to stick to me, because otherwise I won't.
I have to have seen a movie at least 20 times to know character names. So I was struggling. I'm like, which one is Suicide? Is Linnea Quigley Suicide? And then I made out a little chart, and I had all the actors' names next to them, and the documentary really helped with that, because I could put the face to the name when they showed it up on the screen.
Oh.
That's probably the only reason I even know who's who right now. Yeah, they all have great nicknames, except for Chuck.
Yeah.
Or maybe that is his nickname.
It could be, yeah. He's Charles.
Yeah.
But they call him Chuck. Yeah, I think for Scuzz, it might have been a mercy killing, because he totally has, like, crust punk energy, and, I mean, he probably was going to have to get, like, some kind of tetanus shot at some point in his life or something gnarly. Like, you know, it's just like he ends up like, you know, having some kind of like horrible like experience roadieing for the murder junkies and gets like some poo in his eyes. He's got pink eye now and just definitely all of it.
Rabid weasels.
He's gonna get like some kind of like variation of pink eye that turns into tetanus. I don't know. It's this probably was for the best for him to get eaten by zombies. You know. Just saying.
Have you seen either of the sequels?
I have. It's been... Well, when I say sequels, I've only seen the second one and a third one. Because I know, wasn't there like some Return of the Living Dead 2 Rave to the Grave? I avoided the newer ones. I've seen the second one. I saw the third one, which I think was by Brian Yuzna. Have you seen those two?
No, I haven't. I don't think I may have seen the second one years ago, but I remember nothing about it.
The second one's cute. And it's been years since I've seen it. I mean, I remember being cute, and you have this whole thing where you literally have Tom Matthews and James Cameron return basically in the same roles, and the same thing happens to them. The gag is one of them says, I feel like we've been through this before, or there's a variation of that, and there's a sequence set to Robert Palmer's Clues, or Looking for Clues, whatever that song is called. The the music is a lot different. I have nothing against Robert Palmer, but, it's just, going from like 45 Grave to Robert Palmer is a little disconcerting. The third one is really interesting. The thing that actually hurts it is the title, because it is so different than either film. It's not really, I think it should have just been called something else. It's its own film, but it has some really cool ideas in it. And I remember really liking it, but just being like, this should have been called something else. It should have just been allowed to kind of stand on its own feet. It doesn't really feel like it's part of that universe.
And it probably wasn't the way they do these things. Well, we still got the rights to the Return of the Living Dead. Okay, put that title on there.
But I remember being a very cool, really interesting movie, though. I mean, if the worst thing you could say about a film is, oh, the title should have been different, then it's fine. It's fine. I haven't seen the newer ones on purpose, though, because it's just, Rave to the Grave? Are you shitting me? Like, that sounds like some comp I would have bought at Hot Topic, like, years ago for $5, which I probably shouldn't admit, but shame is for the weak. The original... It's just so perfect. I mean, the sequels are fun. I definitely encourage people to seek out the third one as its own movie, though, because it's cool and it's definitely adds... I don't want to spoil anything too much, but it's definitely got some cool ideas and visuals in it that you won't really see in other horror movies, especially of that era.
Well, his movies usually do, if nothing else, some interesting visuals.
I love Brian Yuzna. Society is one of my favorite horror movies. That's one I want to write about at some point. Maybe later this year, because I think it's such a cool movie. I can see why it was a slow burn as far as getting a cult, because it's not for everybody. But most things that are really worth seeking out aren't going to be.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that one. When I think of him, there's a couple of movies of his that don't quite work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure what it is. I mean, the special effects are almost always just outrageously amazing.
Oh, God. Well, especially with Society, because you have Screaming Mad George.
Yeah.
Who's so cool. He's a legit, just like this amazing musician and special effects guy. Like, I love him.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. Him and Stuart Gordon. Again, it's just one of those weird things where I get it, and I know that a lot of people appreciate. There's something there that doesn't work for me. I don't know what it is.
I think it's okay if, especially in the film world, some things aren't going to click with this that click with other people. I think that's fine. I think we should normalize that being okay, because I hate terms like guilty pleasures. Loving a movie, you shouldn't feel guilty about it. If something creative brings you some happiness, it doesn't matter what it is. Like,
right.
And I mean that legit. Like, if somebody came to me and they're like, oh my God, this Mariah Carey song saved my life, I would be like, well, that's not for me, but that's awesome. That's beautiful. That's cool. That's what art is there for. And some things click with us and other things don't. I know people that absolutely love Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless. It didn't do it for me. Mm-hmm. I gotta be honest. But that's okay. It's okay. I hate this idea of film shame or art shame. It's silly. We all have joke. I mean, if you're snarking from a good place and just joking, like it's good natured, that's different. Because we all do that. I mean, I hate the Eagles. Really.
Stab it with their stealing knives, but they just can't kill the beast.
I do love Joe Walsh, though. I have friends that love the Eagles, and their music connects with them, and I think that's awesome. The thing that is for everybody doesn't really exist if you think about it, because even mainstream stuff, like obviously like with Marvel and that whole thing's, or Star Wars, like there are people, obviously there's a lot of people that love that shit. Like they love it, but it doesn't connect with everybody. I'm good. I don't need it, but I'm not going to shit on somebody for loving it. People just, especially online, don't be dicks, okay? Yeah. Don't be a dick. Life is too short. Life is so short. Like, it's just, focus on what nourishes you and what you love. Honestly, I love Yuzna and Gordon, but those are two cats that are very, they have a thumbprint that is completely theirs. And sometimes with auteurs especially, some auteurs, it doesn't hit you. That's totally fine.
Yeah. I get the appeal of certain things that people really like that I don't. And I think for me now, I'm trying to figure out in my own head, what makes this miss for me? And then what makes something like Phantasm,
warning shots are bullshit,
so appealing to me?
Oh, I love Phantasm. Oh my God.
I saw something the other day about Phantasm, and somebody tweeted that this is a movie that you didn't see when you were a teen or a preteen. It's probably not going to work for you. Like, if you see Phantasm for the first... And this is a generalized statement anyway, because I'm sure there are plenty of adults who could see it and get the feel of it like a teenager did. But I had that experience with the movie. I saw it when I was pretty young, and it stuck with me for decades. But I could see its issues now and where that might not work for somebody. Like, if I saw it for the first time right now, I don't know. I think it would still work for me because it has that weird dream quality, and that's like the big plus for me. But I wonder sometimes, like, is society and some of these other things not working for me because I didn't see them at that age? Like you talked about at the beginning of the episode, when you see these things that really click for you when you're a teenager, it's hard later on in life for things to click that hard. Nothing clicks like it does when you're a teenager, and I totally agree with that. It's just fascinating to me in my own head, like, why did this movie work so well and why does this one not? And I guess I'll just never know.
What's interesting, because there are some films that are big ticket type films for people like ourselves. Sometimes their titles I don't see till like a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, even though I was familiar with Phantasm, I didn't actually sit down and see Phantasm until I was an adult. And Society was a first time viewing for me like 2 years ago. Like, it took me forever to see that one. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because I get easily distracted. And plus, when you write about film, and I'm trying to be better about this, it's easy to fall into being like, the only thing you're going to watch is for work.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't suggest doing that. Like, it's good to remember what it's like to watch a movie just to watch it. And enjoy it just as a viewer. Don't get me wrong, obviously I love writing about film, and I still get that excitement. You know, it's never going to be like it is when you're a teenager, but when you do, like, part of the joy for me that I still find, like, I never get burnt out with movies, is because there's always something new to be found. Even if it's like an old film, like, it's new to you. And it's crazy because film is like such a young format. I mean, compared to paintings and music and literature have been around forever. Film is such a baby. Even as young a format it is, there's so many movies out. There's so much content that you'd have to become a Highlander or a fucking vampire and get eternal life to try and watch everything. And even then, you probably are still going to miss things because, I mean, and I'm not even counting like films that are lost. I mean, just stuff that is out there.
Yeah.
But that's exciting. Like, I've never been able to like understand people that say I'm bored. Because to me, I'm like, well, first of all, I'm always like, God, no, there's so much shit I need to get done. There's so much stuff I need to do. But also, there's a world of wonder out there, whether it's films or, I mean, especially for, talking about books, albums, whatever. It's such a cool problem to have, really, that we just have so much. I mean, especially, like, for those of us who grew up in the video era, where I remember reading about so many films that I were like, oh, man, I'll never get to see these. And now I have it on Blu-ray. Like, it's amazing.
I mention this all the time on my show, but having the Psychotronic Encyclopedia film and Danny Perry's books and making these lists of films and never finding them, at a video store, at a local store. Something like Eyes of Fire, which I never saw when I was younger, but I remember the video cover. But when I watched that movie a couple years ago, that's a movie that I was like, oh, I would have fucking loved this. And it still hit me. So, I mean, I guess there's an example of that right there. And now it's got this great Blu-ray release, and it comes out tomorrow on Shudder. So I'm going to watch it tomorrow when it comes out, because I've only seen the crappy version on YouTube. But even with that real crappy version, it really still hit me. Yeah, it still happens, and it's really nice when it still happens, like, oh, this would have been an all-timer for me back then.
Oh, gosh.
And it makes me regret not having rented it, because I thought that the video cover was fascinating. I don't know why I never rented it.
We all have those ones, the little escapees, I'll call them, for you. You almost rent it, like, because Phantasm, that's why it took me forever to see Phantasm. I would read about it, like, in Fangoria, but I'd always end up picking something else out. Like, it was always on my list of, like, ooh, I need to get that, but then I'd end up renting. Of course, in some ways, I don't regret that, because some of the stuff I rented, one film in particular still doesn't have, like, a physical media release that's in print, or even on DVD or Blu-ray. Terror at Red Wolf Inn.
Mm-hmm.
That film's a little gem. It's just, I'm hoping somebody will put it out. Nice little feel-good cannibal film.
Yeah, that's on my IMDb watch list, and from whenever I read about it.
Yeah, I would love to see it again. I haven't seen it in years. Of course, there are the times where I'd rent, like, films that were, that was kind of the cool thing, though, is that don't get me wrong, I love the era we live in now as far as having accessibility, and certainly with preservation, too. It really was, especially as a kid, so many of those rentals were blind. Like, you're going into it just so blind. A little part of me misses it. It's not a deal breaker, certainly. I remember renting Schizoid, and I was so excited because Klaus Kinski was in it. It wasn't as epic as I thought it would be. I had built it up in my head, too, because that movie's really sleazy. I don't know what I was expecting.
I watched that one a couple years ago. I had been looking for it online for a while, and I was like, okay, that was all right.
I mean, you do kind of have to love the fact that, Kinski's the hero. He's literally sleeping with his patient. Seems to have kind of an unnatural attraction to his daughter.
Yeah.
But he's the hero.
His patients that like to have their naked jacuzzi. Is that the right movie I'm thinking of?
You're totally right. Yeah, it's totally. There was a hot tub jacuzzi sponsor somewhere, I'm sure, in that credits. But,
and it almost seems overwhelming at times, the new releases that come out. All of that stuff that's on that big folk horror box set, and a bunch of those movies are premiering tomorrow on Shudder, and I'm really excited to get to see Leptirica and a couple other ones that they mention on there that I haven't seen.
Oh, it's so awesome. I haven't seen Eyes of Fire, and I've wanted to for years, so I'm really excited. I remember seeing a trailer for it.
It is a trip.
Oh my god. And also, this is a weird thing that has always creeped me out, but people with those yellow eyes freaks me out. Even, I remember being a kid, and that scene in Thriller where Michael Jackson turns out, the werewolf yellow eye thing didn't scare me. I'm like, no, werewolves are rad. I love werewolves. Just him with his eyes, I was like, hell no. 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 Yeah, it looks completely surreal and beautiful and really eerie, and I'm excited. Man, it's so cool. I have Shudder to thank because I finally got to see Wide of the Eye, the Donald Camille film, on there, which I know is on Blu-ray. I need to get the Blu-ray at some point because I really, really love that movie.
I started that one a while back and didn't finish it for some weird reason, so I need to go back to it.
It's brilliant. I love Donald Camille anyways. That was a joy. That was a complete joy to say. Well, I'm probably, maybe joy isn't is the word, but yeah, it's so good.
What is keeping you busy these days?
About 11 things. But that's again, happy problems. There's a few kind of secret things I'm working on right now that I can't really talk about, but they're going to be awesome. One thing I can't talk about is I recently started a Patreon account, which you can find under Mondo Heather. It's kind of a groovy little space where I post sneak peeks to upcoming articles. I also have a few things that are content that's specifically for the Patreon, and that includes everything from film and music articles to, I even do weird soda reviews, just to kind of keep things kind of on the whimsical end there.
Like sodas that taste like Thanksgiving dinner?
Kind of, yeah. I recently reviewed one that was called Martian Poop. Luckily for me, it did not taste like poop. So, but that's all I can say. You'll have to read it for the full review. I also have a website, mondoheather.com. In fact, I'm going to be having a new piece pop up there this week. One of the things on my website is I've been doing off and on an article series called The Rocket Files, and it's all about the work of the late and always great Charles Rocket.
Hi, Charles Rocket. We're interested in Central Park. How scary is it? We went down there to find out.
It's a guy I've always been really inspired by, and I love his work, and I feel like it was one of those things, when you look him up, all people really either talk about it was when he was on Saturday Night Live or his suicide. And I'm like, he deserves better than this. Because he has a really fascinating body of work. I reviewed, he was in an Albert Pyun movie called Down Twisted, which that's another film that needs to be on DVD or Blu-ray. That's a really, really underrated movie, and just a really good 80s action film with Tom Matthews.
Oh.
As a bleach blonde, no-wave looking psychopath. It's amazing. It's so good. I love Down Twisted. But this week, on the Rocket Files, I'll be focusing on his role in the 1990s ill-fated comedy, It's Pat. The thing is, he, especially for cutting out relatively young, he did a lot of work. And everything from, Albert Pyun movies to It's Pat, which It's Pat isn't, I'm not going to snow anybody and act like it's a undeservedly, like, oh, it's a classic. It's not a classic, but it is an interesting film, and I do think it was, you know, unfairly maligned, because I've seen way worse than it's bad. I won't go too much into it to save it for the article. Such a cool guy, such a cool artist, and life. I mean, he was a musician, and in fact is on, like, some of his musicianship is, like, he did stuff with the B-52s and Debbie Harry. He could play the rock and roll accordion. There's a show called TV Party that he was on a few times as a guest, and he does the most amazing accordion version of Wild Thing you will ever hear.
We watch a lot of Murder, She Wrote in this house, and he was on an episode I saw fairly recently, so that's always fun to spot these people.
I gotta look for that, yeah.
And if you want, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on social media at Twitter, under the name Mondo Heather. Also on Instagram on Mondo Heather. And that's the only social media I'm doing right now. I'm not on Facebook or TikTok or anything like that. Just keeping it simple right now. Feel free, especially on Twitter, like, follow me and learn about things like Charles Rocket and proto hip hop and how much Clu Gulager is the man.
Thank you so much, Heather, for being on the show. Thank you to everyone for listening. And don't forget,
Anything can happen when you wake up heavy.
Such a lovely prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man, we are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.